Do you know, sometimes you have blind faith when you say yes to something, and then as you're walking it, you're like,
You want to turn back.
you want to turn back.
Yeah.
Even if you say yes to something scary and it gets hard after, doesn't mean you didn't say yes to the right thing or that you shouldn't have done it. It's okay that it's hard. It's okay that it's hard, but you go back to the why. Why did I say yes?
If you could restart your journey, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I wish I could go back and be more present.
Welcome back to Stay Dumb. I'm your host, Alexandria, and today I am being joined by Renee Deckrow, founder and owner of Live Oak Coffeehouse, small-scale real estate developer and photographer for Captured Photography. Renee wears many hats, but what she most loves being called: mom, wife, friend, sister, and neighbor. She lives by the quote, "When you have more than what you need, build a longer table and not a higher fence." Thank you, Renee, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. I remember a few years ago coming across this article. It was like a Midland, article. And I said, who is that lady? I want to meet her. It was talking about you creating Live Oak Coffeehouse and the plaza. And I'm like, who is this person? I have to meet them one day. And it finally happened.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are. A year ago we met, and it was just a pleasure to sit down and connect with you. So
you too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you too. I loved our conversation.
I know. I was like, I think there's a gift here because everybody tells me, oh, it feels so safe. And I said, I have to lean into this more.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
Yeah, no, you make people feel very comfortable. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And so we're actually in Renee's studio right now, which is so beautiful. I'm going to do more B-roll shots at the end, but this is so nice. So I'm going to have to come back and take some photos.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. I am curious to know, what is your earliest memory that explains who you are?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that, I've always had a heart for anybody who feels left out. Anybody, I'm always, whenever there's a team, two teams playing, my first question is, who's the underdog? That's who I'm gonna, that's who I'm rooting for. Yep. So, I've always been a person who's always looking and noticing the people. Like I remember when I was in high school, there was a foreign exchange student sitting in the cafeteria by herself.
Yeah.
And so I always sought out the people who didn't have anybody else sitting with them. And I remember going and sitting down with her, and we were friends from there on out for that whole year that she was at school with us.
That's awesome.
I too have felt that way often. Actually,
you felt left out. Okay.
I had moved from Florida to Michigan in high school in my sophomore year, which is kind of a hard transition time because if you were in one place for a really long time, when you're moving in high school in your sophomore year of all times, you're just kind of an awkward, people already had established friendships. And so I remember always having this strong conviction that if I feel something, there's somebody else that probably feels it too. And then instead of feeling sorry for myself, I would use that as a motivation to go be a friend to somebody else and give people what I need. So I think that's maybe one of the first early memories of, just kind of the heart behind what I do.
Yes. Oh, that's so awesome. So transitioning from Florida to Michigan, why? Why did your family move? I was like, why did you come to the cold?
So I was born in Michigan.
Okay.
So I was born in Michigan, and when my dad, my mom and dad, my dad worked at Amway, and he, so we're a family of faith, and interestingly enough, the movie Jesus Revolution that just happened last year.
Okay.
It was all about the kind of the hippies meet Jesus movement back in the 1970s. And my parents came to know the Lord during that time. And so there was a kind of a radical transformation of kind of the way that they were and to the way that they felt like they wanted to be. And so our move initially began from Michigan down to a Bible college in Dallas, Texas, called Christ for the Nations. And so that's where we ended up after Michigan. We moved there. So we had, my mom was pregnant with her fourth baby, and just kind of gave up working at a job up here and packed up the kids, the family, moved to Texas. My mom was 9 months pregnant.
Oh, that's a big leap.
Yeah, big leap. Yeah. So a big leap of faith and a big setting out into an unknown kind of call.
Okay.
And so that's where, a lot of my former years were in the Dallas, Corpus Christi area. My dad was a student there. And then after graduation there, his parents had a place in Florida, in Central Florida. So the non-glamorous part of Florida. I always, when people say, I'm like, actually, I love Michigan. If I have a choice, I just think it's so much more beautiful here. We lived kind of in the swampy, not so nice area of Florida. In fact, a live oak, we had one in our front yard, and they're not actually very, in my opinion, really beautiful. It's kind of messy and overgrown, and that's kind of part of the metaphor that I'm sure we'll get to. But kind of representative of life, and it's just being kind of messy, but majestic and beautiful, and offering shade in spite of their gnarliness, you know. So
that is so interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. So that's where the name of Live Oak came from.
Yes.
Being in Florida, that connection. Wow, that's pretty cool. So I have to ask, was being an entrepreneur always the goal for you, or did you feel like there was another path that was calling you?
Yeah, no, I never imagined being an entrepreneur. So it is really interesting how people say oftentimes, I didn't choose it, it chose me. I've heard people, say that about like whatever journey they're on, and I really resonate with that because I honestly didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. I didn't relate to business. I'm not a natural business person. Like I just do things for the love of it.
It's all about the feeling.
Yeah, it's all about and how it serves the world. So I never think of it in terms of, well, how will I do something and then what will I get back? Like I don't think like that. I'm not, and so which I've actually had to learn how to become a little bit more business savvy, because that's just not my bent, But I remember, and actually I wanted to be. I wanted to be an artist.
What type of artist?
As a child, I always just drew. I was always drawing. I remember not being very good at art, and so it's interesting. I never felt good at anything. But I would draw faces. I've always been really attracted to people's faces. Love faces. And I would just dream of wishing I could get people's likeness more accurately than what I could draw. And so, interestingly enough, photography, falling in love with photography was part of that I could get people's exact likeness, but I could kind of enhance it through, like Photoshop and through, and not like in an inauthentic way, but
a lot of filters now.
Yeah, so not like that, but positioning people in the right light that really like
enhance certain
enhances features. Exactly, not make it not natural, but enhances their beauty. So it was one of those things that my love of photography was really, I didn't even know that the photography as a profession, I never considered that. I actually went to started school for nursing. Yeah, and because I wanted to help people. So I've always had a strong desire to help people, and I love like that kind of taking care of people. I actually loved being a waitress. I was a waitress all through. I put my husband through college. And actually really enjoy taking care of people in that way.
So while you were a waitress, were you also in nursing school?
I never made it to nursing school. So I was only, in those prereq classes. And actually I decided pretty early on that I didn't want to be a nurse. I wanted to take care of people, but I didn't like chemistry, and microbiology was a class that I took that I just remember being like, ooh, that's that's not for me, It's interesting because like I'm kind of queasy.
Yeah.
So there was just certain things that I was like, okay, that's not how I want to take care of people. And then I switched to special education because my sister is a special education teacher. My mom has been a parapro for a school with kids with autism for, a long time. My brother is special needs. Yeah. So I switched to that. And actually when I first moved to Midland, I was a parapro for a while. But photography was one of those things that I would love to do. And if I'd known that I could go to school and become that, that's what I would have done.
So when did you pick up the camera, or like what led you to the camera?
So in college, when my husband, so I actually took, I've always done photography. So always. So I was a yearbook photographer since junior high.
Gotcha.
So I learned photography in a dark room, learned to develop it,
Yes.
And then in college, I remember my husband buying me my first nice camera. So, and then I remember after we had, a couple of our kids, he bought me my first DSLR. So digital photography, and digital photography was a game changer because photography, back in film, I had it and I loved it, and I was, loved to, do scrapbooks and all the things, but I still wasn't very brave as a photographer. I wasn't as creative maybe as I could be because I was always afraid that I would use those 24 pictures and I wanted to use them wisely. So
the film cost a lot during that time.
Very much. And, even to develop it, and I always got doubles, it's just funny. So digital photography was really the big change for us. And then my husband was a chemical engineer. So so that's how we ended up here in Midland.
Okay.
And he's more entrepreneurial than me, actually. So he wanted to have a side business of video and photography.
Okay.
So that's how it became a business. And again, I was much more of the artist. I like being a second camera kind of person, but I developed a love for it and a passion for it, and just kind of went after it. You know what I mean? Where
I feel like our stories are kind of parallel with like photography, and then you're taking all of these different routes to come to this point in your life,
Yeah.
So I can relate to that, and not being as fearless.
Yeah.
Like that's the scary part. I think when you have the camera, you can kind of hide behind it, and then it's kind of a conversation starter.
Yes.
When you walk into a room and people are like, "Oh, so are you a journalist? Are you this?" And now I can talk. But if I was to go in the room without a camera, I'm not speaking.
Yeah,
I'm a little nervous.
Yes, that's exactly how I bet. And it's literally like a passport. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
My camera has been the reason I've got into different places, been able to meet different people over the years, and just like you, it has given me a purpose, and it's given me a vantage point to observe, and so I feel like that was kind of part of me falling in love with people, not just their faces. So it's like it was like I've always loved people, but then it was interesting how being able to look through life through a lens, you know what I mean, and just observe, and then doing like family photography and wedding video and photography. I just remember being like, oh my gosh, I love human interaction and connection like that. I would just be so taken with that romanticism of life, and then being able to pause it so that you can look back on it, has been something I've really loved to then deliver to people. Something that they can, I can show them, look how beautiful you are, and look how beautiful your family is, and look how sweet you are together. And, my dream for photography was always that people would, that they would see their pictures later, looking back on them, and be like, oh my goodness, that's us. Like, we do love each other.
Yes.
Oh, we love our kids. And, I think too, with life being full of, often it's full of hardships and stress. There's something about pictures that shut it all out.
Yeah, it's like you go back to that moment.
Yeah. It's like it reminds you of the good stuff, and so focus on the good was really became a tagline for me too, but my lens has helped me to do that, is to really seek it out, look for it, focus on it.
Oh, I like that, because that's all what the camera is. It's constant focus. You're looking through your little viewfinder and you're trying to find it. So completely get it.
Yeah.
I get that. So what has been, what type of photography do you enjoy the most? Is it weddings or candids? What?
Yeah, I think it's changed over the years.
Okay.
It's really interesting. I think life stage kind of has changed it. I learned by taking pictures of my kids. So I just loved sitting there in the grass while they were playing, and I learned all about taking pictures while practicing on them.
Yeah.
So I loved kid photography, play. I like pictures of people full of emotion, and kids just give that to you. They're not, they're not self-conscious. It's so pure. Do you know what I mean? It's just so uninhibited. Yeah. And I guess I live vicariously through that in a way, because I feel like I've always been very reserved and and so I love taking pictures of emotion. And joy, or even tears. So I did appreciate wedding photography. I didn't enjoy the stress of it. I don't like being in charge of a high stress day. So I remember that being why I loved the photography aspect of it, but the coordination of it, being the person that kind of called the shots, setting out, kind of directing.
Because they never have a coordinator that's going to help.
Yeah, you kind of become that, and you don't realize that. You know what I mean? You're like, well, I'm just a photographer, but you're not really. You really are kind of setting out the day's itinerary, and then you're really having to learn how to direct a bunch of adults and big groups, and actually, and this is why I really resonate with the name of your podcast and all that, is that wasn't easy, and that's okay, because I learned so much through having to develop those leadership skills. I would say, honestly, that's how I learned to, even though I didn't necessarily enjoy it, and I wouldn't consider myself a natural born leader, I had to rise to the occasion, and I had to do it as an act of service. This is what my clients needed from me. So whether I was comfortable doing it or not, I had to get good at it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I had to.
With it.
So yeah.
Wow.
So but newborns, I think I love newborns. I love a mom, cradling her baby. I loved having kids. Probably the best. I've done a lot of cool things.
You have.
Since having little babies, but I honestly think that's my favorite season of my life, was having newborns.
Oh, that's so awesome. So how did that change you? When you became a mom, what did you learn something different about yourself with every child? Or?
I did. Yeah. I you had said that you've never felt, very brave. I never felt very brave. And I was surprised at how brave I became as a mom.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I loved seeing that I was stronger than I thought I was. I mean, even just having babies was something rose up in me, and I did it. I was proud of how I did that, I was like, oh, I'm stronger than I thought. I just never, I didn't think of myself that way at all. In fact, this is horrible, but I was kind of labeled wimpy, or it's so bad. It's so bad, the things that you grow up with, the childhood labels.
Yes.
But I was just timid. So motherhood really helped me to kind of step into some confidence, because I realized I was good at it in a lot of ways. I loved to take care of my kids, and I loved to take care of my home. I loved.
So I'm curious, because was that something you seen as a child, this service? How did that?
Yes.
Was that your mom? Was she
my mom? Okay. My mom. She is the queen. She is, honestly, she's probably one of my greatest role models. Yeah. My mom and my grandma, her mother, they emphasize service. So service over self. I'm actually part of the Rotary because that's their motto. Yeah, and actually with my daughters, I would drop them off at school every day, and we'd sing a song, "Make Me a Servant," humble and meek, let the prayers of my heart help those who are in need. And that was really how she raised us, is to be a servant of all. And so that was just, that was one of the most important virtues, was serving others, and that's just what she modeled, and she still does. She still cares for my brother, and she still still is a parapro for all of these kids, and
Wow.
it's literally her life has been devoted to taking care of other people.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What a good role model to have.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
That's awesome. And then you're modeling that for your children right now.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. So she really, she's always been really attentive too. So I think that, it's one thing to just serve, but my mom's always been one of those really safe people.
Yeah.
Really safe, like you can share anything with her, and you don't fear that she's going to reject you.
Yeah.
She's just safe and
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, so, okay. I know we kind of talked about a lot. I know you pointed out your husband doing the video and photography. Is that when Live Oak opened?
So,
No, we kind of rewind.
I know. So it's and this is the thing, an entrepreneurial journey. So
It takes different turns.
it sure does. He's got his career. We do the side business together on the weekends. We have 4 kids. So it was definitely just a side thing. We would edit in the evenings. We'd do our events, on the weekends.
So he's actually a videographer. Is that his role? Okay.
Yeah. And that was going well, and photography was growing, as far as demand, and so we were looking for a space outside of our home, and we found this space. Actually, the space we're in.
Wow. So this was the first time, like as you're looking.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so we. It was just this room here and the office, and there was a shared common area in the entryway that you walked in.
Okay.
And it was, this is again an old quiet building. There was nothing going on here, but it was the right price. I always can see the diamond in the rough, so I was like, oh, this is perfect. And again, this is natural light, and so you don't have to even have a strobe if you don't need one in here. And so we were like, okay, this is perfect. This would be a great place.
I have to ask, so when you saw this building, was it just the upstairs or the entire building that you guys?
Just this.
Just this.
Just literally this room and the office. That was it. So, so it's just everything has grown so much, but it's always like this really humble beginnings, so this was it, this room. Actually, the ceiling was on the floor. We're constantly having leaking, so I remember just being like, it's fine, I'll make it cute, no problem. So the photography, kind of really took off. I brought in a friend who was just moving back to the area, had started her own photography business. But, again, I was like, why don't you join me, join us in this, because it's hard. It's kind of hard to start in a new area and develop clientele.
Yes.
So it was Daisha and I, and then we brought on a young woman named Rachel. She was actually our nanny, but she wanted to do photography, so we brought her on. So I'm always been like the more the merrier.
Yes.
So, and I always had a heart for wanting to bring other creatives into a space, like creating a space and a hub for creatives to work together. And so it was going so well that we expanded into the other room.
Okay.
And that was going really well. And we did so much more than photography. So we've always been doing community events and community building. And so we would, and even for like seniors, so I love seniors, we would do these elaborate like senior whole, like we do spokesmodel programs, but it would be like really inspirational, right? It wasn't just like having their pictures taken. It was like we wanted them to feel like they were part of something, like a movement. I remember one year we did the End It campaign, which was, kind of bringing awareness to, human trafficking. And so we did our whole spokesmodel program around solving that problem. And so we've always been really missional, like really, like we've always wanted to not just be about photography.
Just a picture and you're done.
No,
it
was really so much more about the experience, so much more about, building community and actually making the world a better place. We would say that we wanted to make the world a better place one click at a time. And now we say one coffee at a time, so it's interesting how, like, again, your passion for things just kind of morphs. It's like it was whatever tool was in our hands at the time. And so Daisha loved art, so I love art too, but I never thought I was very good at it, but felt like, oh, that's something that she loves. So at the time, there was painting and wine classes happening.
Oh, yeah.
That
That's a
was
big one.
yeah, really popular. And so I'm like, let's start hosting painting classes to get people to come in. I've always had a heart for, again, just helping people to get outside and be connected with each other and not be lonely. So loneliness has been a driving force behind all of the things that I do, is to how do we solve loneliness? Well, connection, So really, again, before coffee, there was painting classes, and so we were doing that. And well, we actually, we were just kind of starting that when the whole building came for sale.
Okay. So when you got into this building, it was just this space for rent, and then the downstairs was still being occupied.
Yeah, there was actually a church where Live Oak is.
Oh, wow.
There was a community church. There was like an oxygen medical supply.
Oh, wow.
Secretary of State was here originally. There's always been a hair salon down there. There was even like Resonate Hearing, so a hearing place where the roastery is now. But then
a lot going on.
It was a lot going on, and there was a dance studio up here.
Okay.
So there was
That
a
makes
dance
sense.
studio. But then the entire building came for sale. So we. I remember being in one of our back offices and Daisha looking at Aaron and I and saying, "You should buy the building." And I was like, what in the world? Like, that's the most like preposterous thing, right? Like, why should we do that? Like, we're very, we're both very like risk averse people. And even though I have big dreams and visions, I didn't see ourselves. And I also don't even like the thought of being a landlord. It has such a negative connotation, and so I just didn't see myself like that. Not to mention the fact that it was 16,000 square feet, like 12 furnaces. It just seemed like really like
Too huge to take on.
really huge. And again, I'm not brave, so
So did your husband? Did he have that fear too, or was he like, "Yeah, I think we should"?
Well, I think we both. He's an engineer, so he's gonna not necessarily respond out of emotion, but out of data and spreadsheets. So it's probably
The logical.
probably is for the logical, like that. It was probably more of not necessarily fear we can't do it, but fear like how would we make it work, But being people of faith, we had that kind of that it was like something deposited into our heart, like. Probably should pray before you just say no,
Right.
Maybe this is something and maybe this is the next right step. And so we did. And I know it's so funny. It's so vulnerable to talk about your faith journey because it's like, it feels so, if you're an outsider to somebody else's faith journey, it's like, really?
No, I'm always like, I'm inspired by it. So,
So I just, but for us, we prayed. We really did seek and ask. And we, I believe that when you're supposed to do something, you're given the peace to do it. And so we did, we were given, kind of that peace, we got on the same page on it, it was definitely trepidatious, understanding kind of the risk, understanding what we were saying yes to. But, at that point, I was very much like, if God is asking us to do something, He's surely going to provide everything that we need to do it. Yeah. And so it might be scary, and that's okay. You can do things scared, but God will surely give you what you need. And I had a strong faith. We had a strong belief in that conviction.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was really why we decided to say yes.
So and how long did that take?
So
to come to that decision.
Well, we try not to take forever, So we actually, I I remember somebody sending us a verse, you're a city on a hill, to so shine your, so to do good works and shine your light, for God. And so I remember being like, okay, I think, so it was probably just a week, a week of,
that's
prayer.
awesome.
We read, we actually did do some quick reading. This is going to make you laugh, but we read commercial real estate for dummies. So it was.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like you're telling people out there, make sure you read, pick up a book.
We are huge readers. So we read a lot. We don't do anything willy-nilly. It's always like very much like pray, but also be prepared.
Yes.
Also do your homework.
Yeah.
So we read that. We had some friends and family members in real estate. So we, got some information about how does this work. We asked several people in our lives to also be kind of, we bounce ideas off of them. So again, seeking counsel of many, making sure you do that too. So due diligence was a big part of the decision making. So it wasn't just faith. It's like faith, and then now do your homework.
Yes,
make sure you know that this is a wise thing. And so, after doing that, so I think the yes was, probably after a week. And then it was like, okay, do all the homework and the due diligence, because you still have a long time before you're going to actually decide, make an offer and do all those things. But, you have to do an inspection. You have to do all these different things. You have to work with a bank, so a big process came after that. But I think just being willing to was like a big mountain, right? If you're not even willing to, you're not even going to start doing any of that homework.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Wow. So did you guys like save up to, I don't know, put a down payment? How does that work? Because I know a lot of people are fearful to start because of the money.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't even start because they think it's going to cost so much. So did you guys prepare like a savings, or did you get investors? How did that work?
Yeah, so we were able to get a loan from the bank.
Okay.
So I think because of having an existing business in here, and also my husband having an income as a chemical engineer, we were able to take some money from our savings to invest. But we also did we did do a loan. So it's not like we saved all that money to do it. So it was interesting because we're also, so this is for the people who might be interested, the actual practicality of all of this. I remember being, pretty good students of Dave Ramsey. Yeah. So I remember being like, this is not exactly how Dave Ramsey would advise to do it. So I've had to reconcile some of those things and understand real estate is a little bit different of an investment. Than, just charging, even in getting a car, it's different. So, so we felt comfortable to move forward with, getting a real estate loan. So in full transparency, that I remember being nervous about all of those things.
I'm sure. That's like, a whole different process. So, I can imagine. I haven't done it, but I can imagine. Okay, so what has, as a mother and your wife as well, what sacrifices did you have to make to get to this point?
That is...
Was it like, I was thinking about, I was talking to a friend the other day, and sometimes, people sacrifice their health, because they have to be with their kids and they're at home, so they don't go to the gym. Was there any sacrifice that you've had to make over the years? Yeah,
I mean, for sure. So, this is probably where I'll get emotional because it has been hard.
I'm sure.
It's, I don't think anything good comes without sacrifice. If you think about, giving birth to my children, that was really hard, but would I take it back? No. Was I crying through the process? Yes. Was I, did I have a lot of anxiety? Yes. But was it worth it? Yeah. So a lot of blood, sweat, and toil. A lot of hard work. So I think that's the unseen stuff that people don't see. We would for a while there, we were getting up at 4:30 in the morning, going to work out, listening to everything, like listening to podcasts. So I don't feel like I've ever been ready to do anything I've been called to do. So I get ready. So I was just devouring books on business, leadership, finances, taxes, you name it. I didn't understand it, I would read a book on it. So that's just how he and I are. So Aaron and I, we just read books, listen to podcasts. We just read and, try to educate ourselves on so many things. And in fact, I would say it's been a gift that none of this has come natural or easy, because it's forced me to be quite a student. And it's forced me to have a lot of passion around everything I've learned, or it's allowed me to have more passion, because it's like I had to earn it. Like I had to go get it. Like I didn't just come by this naturally. Like even books on, bravery. I remember reading Free Fall to Fly, and reading if you're, Chase the Lion, and if you're Dare to Dream, like just all these books, even in dreaming, because I wouldn't consider myself even a dreamer. I'm a pretty practical person. I of course I'm very idealistic. So I would say that I'm idealistic, very idealistic, but understand the practicality around your ideals. So like, I'm very much like, that's fine. You can have big ideals, but you're going to have to do a lot of work. Yeah. Because things don't just get handed. And so, I would say that we have been very, 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 very intentional about not sacrificing our marriage or our kids in this journey.
That's awesome.
So we've always tried really hard to make them the priority. And so if that meant we would go slow, we'll go slow. And I do think that's been so we joke, often we're the 16-year overnight success. Yeah. So by the time Live Oak came to be, we'd already been at this business journey for a decade or more, right? I mean, so since 1999, it was when we first started our first little business. And so it's interesting how people see like kind of this part of your story, but they don't see the roots of way back when, and how much we've had to learn and grow, and how much we had to fail to get to understanding about things, how hard it was to learn how to juggle being, a mom, being parents while building a business. So I often say that I was nurturing babies, businesses, and buildings over the last 2 decades. And so I was growing and taking care of. It's been a lot of energy. I will say that part of my passion for Live Oak was birthed out of the extreme anxiety that I experienced after buying the building. So we had bought the building in 2013, and for 2 solid years after, I experienced, this is the really honest, raw part of my story, I experienced extreme panic attacks, because even though I felt like we were supposed to do this, the reality of it started to hit me, where I was like, I changed my mind. What did we say yes to? Yeah. So kind of the reality of like what this was hitting me. Sometimes you have blind faith when you say yes to something, and then as you're walking it, you're like,
you want to turn back.
Yeah. So I also, in a lot of ways, want my story to be that too. I want that to encourage people that even if you say yes to something scary, and it gets hard after, doesn't mean you didn't say yes to the right thing or that you shouldn't have done it. It's okay that it's hard. It's okay that it's hard, but you go back to the why. Why did I say yes? And that becomes your like the fortitude you have to keep going, and also looking. So it's like looking back to why you said yes in the first place, but also the future of what do I want to create, and allow that to like kind of pull you, and also allow this to be a foundational thing. So your why is your foundation, though in the future is kind of the thing that pulls you. And so. So I remember, experiencing just that extreme anxiety. And again, that loneliness really was kicking in, that loneliness of just feeling like who else has done something that's crazy, right? Like not really knowing who I could talk to. And so I remember that was when I started Brave for Women, so a business group of women entrepreneurs. Because again, when I'm feeling
connection,
when I'm feeling a certain way, I start to the empathy is actually honestly really good for me. So it's good when I feel these different things because I'll take action on it. So I'll feel lonely, and so then rather than like kind of turning inward, I'm like, well, if I feel this way, there's probably other people around me that are feeling this way. And so then it kind of gives me courage to step out of myself and see, well, how could I help, or not necessarily help them and they need my help, but like, how can I rally other people and other women who might be feeling this way? And so I started reaching out to different women that I saw in the community that were doing brave things, and just kind of inviting them to come be with me, come share space with me. Let's sit together and talk about like this. And so it became almost like a support group for women in business who were doing something scary, kind of stepping out on a ledge. And so that original Brave group was so life-giving. It was like we just kind of clung to each other. And it was like, yeah, it is kind of scary. I do feel like a fish out of water, or I do feel like I don't know what to do about X, Y, and Z. I do feel the imposter syndrome. I think that people don't realize how common that is. I mean, other people think, wow, you're so brave and you're doing these things, but if you ask most entrepreneurs, especially like creative entrepreneurs, I guarantee they don't feel themselves as brave. I guarantee that they're sitting there like, oh no, I'm doing this afraid every step of the way. And so that's really what Brave, why I called it that, and do the next right thing. You can do it scared, but do it anyway. And so it was through that season that the isolating feelings that I had, during that time really also then was part of the kind of the impetus for creating the coffee house, because I recognized that it was bigger than just a feeling of a creative entrepreneur. A lot of people in the world experience anxiety. A lot of people in the world feel depressed or lonely. And so how can I create a space where they can come together? And even if you're not connecting in a coffee house, like even if you're not like actually talking to somebody, there's something so comforting about being like introverting in a public space, right? Where you feel safe, and you can like hear people laughing, and you can hear people. There's something, and I remember that even as a child, like I loved that feeling as a child of like, people connecting. When parents would have people over, and I just loved the sound of them laughing and talking. And, I just always felt so safe when there were other people around.
I love that. It's so much like in that dialogue that I just have questions that I'm thinking about. I'm seeing pictures. Even when you talk about the why and then the pulling of the vision, it's like I'm turning back around and I'm seeing my why, and it's like, no, keep going. Like I'm seeing that visually, and then you're seeing your vision. And it also makes me think about Steve Jobs, and he was saying that you need to have someone who is the keeper of the vision. While you're building whatever you're building, you need someone that's going to say, hey, no, this is where we're going. It sounds like you were able to create that with the women around you. But I also have to ask, did your husband have these feelings, and was he able to find a safe space?
I think that, definitely he has had some of these feelings also. And I think his safe space was me and his dad. He had a really, really great relationship with his dad. He has brother-in-laws who are in business too. And so I feel like they often, a lot of times our family gatherings are,
business
them
meetings.
all talking about different things, So I think he had it more kind of in a family kind of sense, where I didn't have that as much in like the family sense, right? I didn't have like my sister teacher, sisters are doing different things. So it wasn't like anybody had done what I had done in the world of business or entrepreneurship, right? So that felt kind of, and in my family, it's a little bit more of a trailblazer in that way, so that's probably why. And I think that, maybe just me as a personality or as a woman, I needed like
The connection.
The connection, maybe even
yeah.
more, than my husband did. And, too, he too, I don't think could be maybe as consumed by it. I mean, he had a career.
Yeah.
So I think that like for our experiences are a little different just because I think that this whole building was my life. Do you know what I mean? Like my kids, like making sure that they were safe through it was more of my, not that that wasn't his priority, but like I think he had other things, where like this really was kind of more my domain, right? Like this, it's interesting how like even to this day, like I'm here every day, like going around cleaning things, so it's interesting how I do know that he has felt these things, and I think it's very important that everybody has somebody they can talk to and confide in, and I do know that his dad was really that for him. He was really a good friend. He came and did all of the walkthroughs with him, and actually any house we've ever bought, his dad had come with him and helped to make those decisions.
So what is his role and like what does he do in life? His dad.
His dad, he was amazing. He passed in 2020. But he was, he was a salesperson in business. So he was our number one cheerleader and encourager. So it wasn't like he had this like big career, but he invested so much of his life into his kids, like building them up.
That's awesome.
There was a quote we used, standing on the shoulders of giants. And he, it's like he saw his role as a parent as, like even though he couldn't see over the fence, he put his kids on his shoulder to see over it. And so like, that's really the kind of dad he was, he was the kind of person that like, was like, it didn't really even matter what his career was or what he did because his greatest like contribution was how he loved his kids.
Oh, that is so beautiful. You got me like tearing up.
Yeah.
You got me tearing up. Oh, I love it. Oh, so given, everything that you've built, have you been able to find balance or harmony? I heard this thing on the internet and it said, instead of trying to find the balance, because nothing really is balanced in life, try to find the harmony between it all. So have you found that?
Yes. Yeah, I really have. And I remember, so shortly after Live Oak opened, I remember standing down by the bar and my friend Daisha, again, she's been very like pivotal in my life because she's a quiet person. But when she speaks, and that's actually why her words are probably so profound, because she's so quiet that when she does speak, you listen. You're like, okay, what did she say? I'm paying attention.
Is she a projector? Have you ever done human design or anything? Like, it's like this little quiz that you do. But anyway, she sounds like a projector to me.
Oh, she's
a person like that.
Yeah, she just really like a strong, like comforting, quiet force, behind me. And I just remember standing there, and she said, so you have photography, you have the building, you have Live Oak. What do all these things have in common? And I remember just standing there and just saying right away, well, they help you to pause, connect, create, and grow. And it was like it was like she would just like give me 4 words to say with what you do here. And so, with photography, I learned how to pause, right? So I learned how to create, how to capture moments for other people, and for myself, really. Right? Where you freeze time for a minute and you pause in gratitude, right? It allows you to like focus on this good thing and take a minute and like really reflect. And have some space for gratitude, and then connection. So like we were doing the teaching of the art classes at that time when we first opened Live Oak. We were having all this connection, with people coming into the coffee house, and so we were creating an atmosphere in this whole building of people to interact and connect with one another. We were creating. So I really believe that everybody is a creative, and that we thrive. Like we love, whether you're creating a business plan or you're creating a mural, like we have to, it's like, I feel like we have to create things.
Yeah.
It's such a joy for all of us to like bring ideas to life, you know? And so I think it's really invigorating, right? It gives you purpose to,
When you can take something from up here and you finally put it in the 3D. It's
yeah.
like, oh, I did that. You
Yeah,
know?
and even if it's just a solution to a problem. So, you know, Aaron being more of an engineer than a creative, I would say he's a wonderful creator.
I still think so.
Yeah, because he's creating solutions to problems. There's a movie called Robots, See a Need, Fill a Need. It was a favorite quote in our family. And so Aaron's the kind of guy that is able to see problems and know kind of intuitively what he would do to make it better and to create a system and a process around it. I mean, he's literally the secret to all of this success, I believe, because he's been able to take these ideas that I have, like these ideals that I have, and actually put like an actual structure and process and a plan to it. Exactly. And then grow. Like when you're doing all of those things, when you're pausing in gratitude, like really giving thanks to whom thanks is due, right? When you're having that posture of humility and gratitude, when you're connecting with other people, right? Like giving to other people, receiving from people, right? And when you're you know, connecting to your purpose, then you're growing. You know, and at the end of the day, that's what I want all of these endeavors to be, you know, is growth in people's lives, flourishing, right? So, you know, I just want to, I just love to create like containers and spaces for it. And like,
I love it.
you know, but like really, I mean, I think that we should all be able to look at ourselves and say, did I learn something today? Am I a little bit better or, you know, more developed in this area than I was yesterday? And I think we can all probably say, yeah, like I think.
I hope we all can
you
say
know,
that.
right.
People, you're like, oh, did you grow?
Yeah,
No.
I mean, even when the growth is, you know, not very much or hard to, I think we all do, you know, ideally, and if not, we need to be creating environments that people can grow. I do believe you can be in environments that, I mean, if you think about like this space, right? I mean, the plants are going to grow much better in here than they would in a dark room that isn't getting watered, right?
Yep.
So we're just like plants. Like if you put people in the optimal spaces and environments, and I want to be an environment creator. Like I want to help create environments where people can grow, right? So like, I want to be a you know, a waterer, you know? So I think that, yeah, I mean, it's nice if we can create those spaces for others. It's also nice if you yourself can put yourself in those places too.
So I have to ask, what new spaces are you putting yourself into that's helping you grow?
That is a great question. I think that, you know, for me, I'm looking always in organizations that I can, you know, grow in. I think, you know, a faith community is really important, you know, being in, you know, relationship with other people that are going to, you know, sharpen you, challenge you, you know, pray for you, you know, allow you to talk. So I think those environments, service organizations help me to keep things in perspective. I love, you know, the work of the Open Door. I think it's really important that, you know, that you surround yourself with just like with other people who I think sometimes we can take things for granted, and so I think that we need to be learning from everybody, you know, even just like with the Rotary, like I just love that the focus is so much on, you know, service to others. You know, I'm just inspired when I'm with people who are just like constantly looking for a way to give and serve, you know, being part of the Midland Area Community Foundation. Last year I was able to do stories for the Midland Area Community Foundation.
I remember you telling me about that.
It was so awesome. So I got to do this with, you know, there were 50 stories and I did about a third of those stories last year. And so I got to sit with people that were literally the people behind a lot of the nonprofits in the community, you know, that the Midland Area Community Foundation has done over the last 50 years. And so being able to sit and listen to their stories and listen to how something like an idea that they had they were able to actually bring it to life, and now it's serving all these people. So I remember talking with the guys behind the Big Give, which is just a simple service organization where, and I'm part of the Women's 100 Club.
Oh, I just wanted to check that.
Where, it's just women get together, they talk about some needs in the community, and then every woman writes, a check for $100.
Oh, wow.
And then it goes into a pool, and it takes care of these needs, and the men's Big Give is the same thing. But just having just kind of sometimes these simple ideas that somebody will have, they'll see a problem in the world that needs to be solved, and then they gather, and then they do something about it. They gather some other people that are like, yes, I want to solve that problem too. And then the foundation helps again with the process and the platform to solve those problems. So it's like
That's cool.
Yeah, so I feel like that was life-giving, so life-giving to just sit there and listen to, people share about how they were able to do that. So yeah, I feel like, sitting in people's stories is one of my favorite ways to grow.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm the same. I love listening, I think.
Yeah.
Like people ask me questions and I'm like, wait, no, let me ask you. So I understand like the storytelling part and just how they came to be who they are. So I completely get it. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we talked a little bit about Aaron, your husband. Is there any other ways that he influences you to be, who you are? How does he influence you?
Oh man. He is so good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like everybody deserves somebody that will see in them what they don't see in themselves. It's interesting how he's the one who's encouraged me to do all of these things. Like I would never see myself as being able to do any of the things I've done. But he's always been right behind me, being like, you can do that, you can do that. And, just constantly cheering me on. And and it's not just in word, it's in deed. He's never not brought me a cup of coffee in the morning.
Oh.
So literally since I've had babies, so for 24 years, every single morning he brings me a cup of coffee. Oh. And I remember talking with you about this in our first time is honestly that's another reason that I love Live Oak. Because I want to be that. I want Live Oak to be that for other people. That's so what I have received, for 24 years, every single morning, somebody bringing me a cup of coffee and saying, I love you, is literally what I think everybody needs. And I think that it's such a simple act, but it's so profound. Like it's a simple thing that it kind of just gives me it always starts my day with, oh, I'm loved. I'm loved and I'm cared for. Yeah. Therefore, I can go and do these things, And then, obviously having somebody, be supportive of you and cheering you on and, helping with every single thing, like all the details, he's really good at the details. He's really good at the game plan. Another thing that he's always done since dating, so before I started having babies, dating, he would have an itinerary. So a whole itinerary. If you look at my phone right now, I have an itinerary for this evening. Always an itinerary. So our kids it's weird if he doesn't. Why didn't Dad send out the itinerary? So
that is so funny.
It is. But it's so I feel so cared for. Not in a it's not a bad thing. It's not it's not like like we must do these things. It's he thought through the details so that it would go well. And that would be when we were talking about like when you future cast, when you're looking into the future, he's really a guardian. So like he thinks a lot about the future. I think we talked about, peacekeeping and peacemaking in the past. And, he's a peacemaker. And so he's thinking like, if I want peace and harmony tonight or tomorrow or next month, I better have a plan, right? Rather than just like getting there and see what happens. He likes to kind of think through, and he does the hard work, like the hard work of actually thinking through the details. And honestly, the heart of hospitality is that. So if you think about like what hospitality is, it's thinking ahead of when your guests arrive, all the things that they might need. And so
you've cultivated that. You both have cultivated that.
Yeah, and
here.
I think that, I think he's helped me to see it like all those things. Because I think that I intuitively do those things. So like I more intuitively know how to make atmospheres, right? But he's helped me to identify there's an actual process for it too, right? So like thinking through when somebody walks in, what will they see? What will they hear? What will they feel? What will they smell, right? So like actually thinking through what people experience, and then kind of putting, in an itinerary, it shouldn't be like a controlling thing. It should be like
I don't see it as controlling.
No, but like it should be like a guardrails or some sort of like we're anticipating, this. So it's interesting because he's really helped me with that, like to just kind of, I don't know. I appreciate that a lot because there's a lot of like security in knowing like we have a plan, and not that things go to plan. They don't. They rarely do go to plan, but at least you have some sort of guideline or, of what could, like a tentative, itinerary. So it's not like every day is like that. But I think that even for harmony in your own life, if each of us, like I'll usually take my Sundays to do that kind of reflection time and to kind of think about the week ahead and, try to plan out my week. That actually creates harmony in your week, right? Because not that you have to be flexible, obviously, in what might come up, but if you don't have any sort of plan, then you're kind of reacting. You're constantly reacting. And so it's better to kind of have some sort of like
a game plan.
A game plan.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like a football team, and you take the team out there, you have a game plan before they go out there, not just taking shots.
Exactly.
So
yeah. Oh, and I would say that's another thing. He's a great coach.
Okay.
He's a great coach. I would say that, even in just like negative self-talk. Like I was unfortunately kind of raised in it's okay to talk badly about yourself. Never anybody else, but it's okay to talk bad about yourself. And so sometimes I slip back into those habits, and he's always quick to like be like, no, that's not who you are. I won't allow you to talk about my Renee that way, And so it's just so sweet. I'm like, oh, like he definitely sees me better than I am.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I love it. And you guys really have. And I said this when we first met. I was like, at the time, again, hadn't met you yet. But I was like, it's so intentional. And me and my friend, anytime we go to a restaurant, we'll go to the bathroom. Like, did you like the bathroom? Like weird questions. But I was like, they're so intentional. There's Pampers and wipes. They're thinking about the mother out there, And I have a child. So I remember moments like that. And you're going into a nasty bathroom, And I know, again, it's probably kind of crazy, but I look at those things and I can see that you've been very intentional with creating that.
Yeah.
So kudos to you in every location. I mean, it's Midland, Saginaw, and Bay City.
Yeah, thank you.
So to be able to have that in each location, sometimes you might see a location or a restaurant and it's like, that one is not doing too well.
Yeah.
All of yours is doing very well.
Yeah. And I would say that is, like you've said, because of having a process for it, and that's the engineer speaking, he'd always be like, well, what needs to be true in order for that to happen, like clockwork, you have to have a process for it. Good ideas don't just happen on their own, so you have to have a process. So we do strive for that. Like you said, things do get busy, and staff can get busy, and so I think we do try really hard, and it's okay that it's not perfect all the time, know. So
that is awesome. So I have to ask, before we kind of close it out, if you could restart your journey, is there anything that you would have done differently?
So, and this is back to Aaron, like one of his mottos is no regrets. And so I've kind of adopted that with him, you know. I tend to feel regretful quickly. Like even after I leave a conversation, I'll replay it and beat myself up over it. So I have a lot of micro things. So a lot of micro things that I wish I could do better. You know, I think that you don't get through being a mom without feeling regrets, you know. So as much as we've tried, as much as I've tried to be intentional about being there are a few things, you know, mostly in the mom category than any other category, where I wish I could go back and be more present. I wish that I hadn't been worried about some future thing and distracted. But in the macro, we've lived in such a way to be intentional so that we don't have regrets. So it's like, and I think that's a good lesson maybe, because you're going to have, I think, some of us are going to struggle with guilt and wish we could have done something better. But you're where you're at, and I've had to learn to be gentle with myself and realize, okay, you weren't always mentally present for all of your kids in the season that you were buying the building and opening the coffee house. Even though you were trying, you were mentally preoccupied, because that was a big deal. That was a lot. And you did the best you could for the season you were in. And you'll do better. You'll be better now because you'll remember the sting of regret, the sting of not wanting to feel that way. So, and you know, you have today and you have tomorrow. You can't go rewrite the past, right? I can't go back and be there and pay attention and look my kids in the eye, but I can today. Right now, I can put my phone down and I can look at you and I can be fully in this moment. And so I would feel like that's probably that's the only thing that I would do differently, is try to live more in the moment. Yeah. I live so much in the future, which can be a good thing. It can be an asset, right? But it can also be
anxiety.
Yeah. And so I think that, you know, being really present, you know, being grateful for what you have right in this moment, and having the faith that the future will work itself out. You're not going to be alone. You know, grace is one of my most favorite words. It's one of my most favorite virtues and qualities, and the thing that I most hope to embody, even though I fail at it every day. And grace is for the present. You know, you don't, it's a very present thing. You have it for today, you know? And so I think that, yeah, there are definitely things that I wish I could have done better. There are things that I wish I could redo. But I genuinely do believe I was doing the best that I could in those moments.
Yeah. And I'm sure your kids will say that, you know, because sometimes you're so hard on yourself and like they didn't even notice it, or, you know what I mean? Like what you're holding against yourself, they're not even holding that against you.
Yeah.
You know, kids, I think kids especially give you so much grace. Like they just love you, and it doesn't matter if you yelled at them. It's like me and my daughter, sometimes she just doesn't like the mornings, and we can maybe have like an awful morning, and I'm sitting there kind of angry on the inside, and then she'll just start talking to me as if nothing happened, and I'm like, okay, we're good now.
Yeah.
So they don't even, I don't think they,
no.
I don't know them personally, but
they're amazing. And you're right. They are so good. They're my biggest fans, really. I mean, we do have a really great. Yeah. You're right. They are very. I just, you know, it's us, you, the person. Yeah, and against ourselves. Yeah, and you know, and it's okay. Like I have that. Like, you know what though, just do better. You know, so like, it's okay. Yeah. Like I try to be good at apologizing to my kids, to apologizing to anybody, you know, that I may have, you know, not given them my best. You know, I feel like that's something that, like, that's all we can do, right? Is do the best we can, and, you know, ask for forgiveness, and and try as best as we can to be, in the present.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
that's good. And I'm happy you're being more gentle with yourself.
it's not easy,
Yeah,
like
'cause imagine, like, I don't know, just I've met you, within this past year, and you just seem so gentle with other people, and it's like, okay, let's bring that to ourselves as well,
Yeah.
And I think it can be hard, especially as moms, because you give so much and you serve so much, but it's like, okay, let's fill our cup a little bit,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how are you filling your cup? What do you do? What is self-care? What does that look like?
So it's been fun lately. Lately, I've gotten back to reading a physical book.
Okay.
I like going on walks. In the mornings, I always, when I'm getting ready, I always listen to music, and I listen to, a Bible. So I listen, I do that. I think prayer is really important. Gratitude, giving thanks.
Yeah.
I think acknowledging that you're not in control, I think is really good for me to just continue to release and surrender over and over.
Yep.
The trust, right? It's not all up to me. It's not all on my shoulders, And I love being outside. I think being outside is really restorative. Like, I just oftentimes when I'm outside, that's when I really recognize my smallness, and I like that feeling, I love being by water. So we have a family cottage, and we'll just walk out there, by the water. It's just really calming. And again, that smallness, because you're like, okay, there's a lot of things going on, and it's not all up to me to solve it, And yeah, like I said, physical books, that's been really fun. So I've been in the evenings making myself a hot, decaf cup of tea and reading a physical book. I have really enjoyed that practice. I hadn't, I'm an Audible listener.
Okay.
So I always am listening to a book on Audible or podcast or, and I'm multitasking. So I'm always multitasking, which is, fine if you're reading, self-help books or business books or, you know what I mean? But lately I've just been actually having a physical book, and I'm,
you can
reading.
go back and read that part again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, there's just something really quiet about it, right? You're not,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, again, being very present.
Yep.
Very present. All I can do, because with a physical book, you can't also drive.
Yeah,
You
right.
can't do anything else. You're literally devoted to what you're reading. And that's been good for me to quiet all the things. And family dinners. Yeah. So family dinners are my favorite thing. So one of the gifts of, I would say of COVID was
the pausing.
Pausing and recognizing the importance of having family dinner. And that is, where Aaron's been awesome. He always makes us dinner.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
He makes dinner too.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So, he cooks, I clean. So we're our sous chef. But the importance of having dinner together, and everybody goes around and kind of shares, about their day. I mean, we laugh, and I don't know, it's good. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
We'll play, this winter we did a lot of puzzles. So again, that quiet, just kind of sitting there. My kids are at good ages now too, because they're not, you know what I mean? They're not busy, like little kids. We actually do puzzles together, which is really nice. We put on a record. My son Jordan has a record player, so we're listening to records, playing puzzles. It's so fun. Reading physical books, eating family at a dinner at a table. It's been good. So.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm going to have two more questions. Do you think your children are going to take over the business?
We joke about that for sure.
Okay.
So it depends on which child you ask. So we have 4 of them. And we'll see. Yeah. I think maybe one of them would at least we have really had a goal though to build everything so that it can easily be taken over, right? Mm-hmm. So if it was all dependent on everything that Aaron and I did, then it wouldn't be a gift to somebody else, right? It would be a burden. And so we've really tried to build the systems and processes around around setting somebody else to, to do it, so that it wouldn't be oh my gosh, they did this, and So So it would be awesome. I mean, I love the idea of a family business and a legacy, being passed on. So I imagine in some way they would keep it going.
I hope so.
Yeah,
It's beautiful. I really believe that. So, and I hope they do.
Our second son is our head roaster.
Oh, okay.
So he roasts the beans.
Yeah.
He's actually, going right now down south for some stuff for that.
Sounds like the one.
yeah. So yeah, and then the one helps me with the marketing and events. So,
That's cool.
so yeah, I think in some ways it will always be like a family business. That's what I hope.
Okay. And so what is the future of Live Oak? What can we expect from you going forward?
I
Live
think,
Oak you. Yeah.
I think, the heartbeat behind it continues to be creating spaces for people to connect. It's also around connecting people to their purpose and their passion, right? So whether we, have more locations or whether the roaster serves other locations, and that's really what we've been focusing on this year is the roaster aspect, and it coming alongside other community builders in other communities who are wanting to do something similar, and then we come alongside them with providing them with the beans and then that support. So again, a lot of those things that we've had to learn the hard way, we'd love to come alongside somebody and say, there's some lessons you just have to learn yourself, but there's some over here that we had to learn the hard way. Can we just give you the Cliff Note shortcut? So I think that I think just continuing to come alongside other people in their journey, something that you do so well, and what I love for Live Oak to be also is, exactly how you're being with me is what I want Live Oak to be to communities where we're listening, we're paying attention to the needs around us. We're, highlighting people's stories, celebrating them, because it's not about Live Oak. It's never been about, think about a tree. It's a tree is beautiful and great, but it's all about the activities that happen in it and around it. And, it's about the animals and the birds and right. I mean, so I think that it's around, the table that you can gather underneath the shade of a tree. And so that's really it's not about Live Oak. It's about all of the cool people that come here every single day that we're serving coffee and saying, you're important, you're loved, go take on your day.
Oh, that is so beautiful, Renee. Thank you so much. This has been beautiful.
You.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Until next time, y'all, make sure you follow. So give them, before we head out, make sure you tell them how they can follow you.
Sure. So our website is liveoak.coffee, nice and easy. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. We have a fun TikTok also. So it's all Live Oak. Or Live Oak Coffeehouse or Live Oak Coffee Roasters. So we'd love to have you join in on the fun.
Yes, and they're located in Midland, Bay City, and Saginaw. So make sure you follow and come and get your coffee because this is a beautiful space. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, Alex.